So at 10:42 p.m. tonight, while we were live, this may be the reason that the stream cut it, because it cut right during the. Well, what happened was the initial reports are that Joanne Brown and Rendrati Selaslamsiako, the publisher of the Pacific Daily News, were at a buffet, and there was one waffle left, and they rushed to the waffle, and they collided like plate tectonics, and one of them fell down, which is why we only had a 5.1 earthquake that registered, magnitude earthquake that registered on the Richter scale. At 10:42 p.m., the actual story is that there was an earthquake that was felt across the island. According to the French government's seismology center, it registered its initial reports are that it's registering as 5.1 on the Richter scale. I didn't feel the earthquake at all. These guys were like, earthquake, earthquake. And I was like, I don't feel any earthquake. But you said the water was jolting?
Even my drink was moving.
And is how long?
It was a good 10 seconds.
So they wrestled for that waffle then?
Yeah.
For about 10
I
seconds.
think the reason why our stream cut is because ITN probably has they're high tech, right?
Yeah.
So they probably have something like a buffer or something that protects their systems. Once they feel something, maybe all their systems shut down.
They're so smart.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't get ruined.
Okay.
Right?
Well, good
like
for them.
Sparks. And so I think, I could be wrong, but I think ITN has that shit down pat.
Oh, okay. Cool. IT News cool.
So it's not their fault. We love ITN.
Yeah, we do. Except Janet Uggan, and we're going to explain that in one of our...
Oh, I heard that name today. Why?
Yeah, we'll explain it in a later story.
Oh.
Yeah, but she was our accountant rep who never called us, and of course Angela Rosario took care of that real fast. Yeah. So thank you, ITNE. I don't know how we got to promoting ITNE again without them ever paying us any advertising dollars, but here we are promoting ITNE. Can we go back to the earthquake image? This is pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Say it again. Who said that? I love that person. That's the real Joe Cruz. That's the poet laureate of Guam as of now. So there's this really cool graphic from the EMS. I don't know what it stands for, but it's the French government's seismology center. And it, in very pretty colors, it shows, I believe that's the Pacific plate and up against the Philippine plate, and I believe that we are on the ridge of like I don't remember what it is, but we're on the plate that's sinking underneath the other plate. That's what that is. Anyway, so there's a lot of seismic activity in this part of the world. We're in what they call the Ring of Fire or whatever. And so we get earthquakes, we get typhoons, we get corrupt politicians. So God tests us. But you know what? He wouldn't give us shit that we can't handle, right? That's what it is. And so he gave us Mike Phillips, Joanne Brown, Rendrati Selaslamsiako, and you know what? We just have to suck it up and deal with it. But before our stream ended, we were in the middle of discussing news to us that Attorney Mike Phillips is the legal counsel for the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, and how that is so stupid.
We actually have it on good authority, meaning Kandit sources.
I love Kandit sources.
Me too.
I love Kandit sources.
That he's doing it pro bono.
Get the F out of here.
Yeah.
There is something going on.
There
is something rotten in Denmark.
Yeah.
And it ain't the cheese. I've always hated that thing. I don't know why I keep saying it, because it's so dumb.
So we're going to kind of on Monday, we will, or maybe even tomorrow, but most likely Monday, we will find out how he became the attorney for the Chamorro Land Trust.
Well, Senator Mary Torres, on February 6th of this year, wrote a letter to... Matter of fact, it's to Connie Jo Shinihara, the deputy port manager, regarding Attorney Mike Phillips. And she details how corrupt he is. And I want to read you this letter because...
And this is from a lady who is a known upstanding citizen of Guam.
Yeah.
And she is the top vote getter for the Republican Party, as well as the top 5 overall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And she's pretty.
And she's pretty.
I'm very superficial. If you guys didn't know this about me yet, I'm superficial, shallow. I look at the monitor all the time to see how I look.
So do I, Jello.
I'm vain, yo. So if I ever compliment that you're a good-looking person, know that comes from the bottom of my heart facsimile. So Ms. Torres writes to Ms. Shinihara, Dear Ms. Shinihara, thank you for allowing me to provide additional information for your review and consideration. In my last correspondence to you, I described in great detail the ethical miscarriage committed by the Phillips firm during their investigation of the 2012 workers' compensation claim. While these violations provide sufficient cause for alarm, they are merely symptoms of a larger problem that began long before my tenure at the port and will continue so long as the law office of Phillips and Bordallo PC remains its counsel. In all fairness to the aggrieved parties and the general community of Guam, I believe your task force cannot conduct an objective review of the Port 7 cases without an overall examination of the Phillips firm's long history of questionable practices in the name of the port's best interests. Under the subtitle, A Panoply of the Absurd. This is such a big word. I have no idea what it means. On the law of parsimony, is another big word, is a logical principle that says the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Oh, okay. Unfortunately for the Phillips firm and many of the port's previous management, logic was simply not their forte. Rather than believe that Miss Meno, a woman who had never been subjected to any prior discipline at the port, a woman who, just 1 week before her notice of adverse action, was awarded a certificate of achievement by the port's own board of directors, a woman who had earned the port's marketing division a Mag Pro award, had indeed suffered a work injury as she claimed, management chose to concoct a conspiracy theory so absurd, one would have to be a contortionist to navigate the mental gymnastics required to believe it. With such pretty words. It's just a pretty way of putting things. Consider it for a moment, she says. Why would every single one of those employees, many of whom had long-term employment and a dedicated history of service to the port, risk everything to collectively fabricate a work injury requiring back surgery, with most of the $70,000 earmarked for doctors and hospitalization? What exact benefit would each of them gain that could possibly surpass the loss of their jobs, livelihood, reputation, and the prospect of criminal prosecution? While the Phillips firm publicly portrayed Ms. Meno's extension of leave in Hawaii to be a form of vacation, if this indeed were the grand conspiratorial exercise counsel represented it to be, why not give the alleged the credit to dream a bit bigger than a simple claim requiring back injury at the nearest U.S. facility? The great lengths these supposed schemers would go for very little gain requires an excessive suspension of disbelief. Nonetheless, to this day, though the statute of limitations to press criminal charges has since expired, the port's counsel, Mr. Phillips, maintains that these employees were involved in criminal conduct and that the facts exist to prove it. And yet, no law enforcement body, local or federal, has seen it fit to hand down a single indictment against any member of the Port 7. No criminal charges were brought despite the urging of then board chairwoman Dan Tidinko, her brother Phil Tidinko, then chief prosecutor of the Attorney General's office, and Joanne Brown's relentless and unabashed efforts to get Attorney General Elizabeth Barrett Anderson to prosecute the port employees. You should feel free to contact former AG Barrett Anderson, who mentioned to me Ms. Brown's persistence and obstinacy when she indicated to Ms. Brown that there would be no criminal prosecutions. Still, as incredulous... That's the sunflower seeds, I'm so sorry. As incredulous as this conspiracy sounds, it pales in comparison to the repeated failure of the port to properly assess and manage the Port 7 cases. Subheading is the tail that wags the dog. We all know that attorneys have an obligation to provide advice that is in the best interest of their client. But as sworn officers of our legal system, they are also subject to ethical rules and standards, and for good reason. Zealously appealing rulings for no substantial purpose other than to embarrass or violate the legal rights of third persons or furthering factually unfounded positions are not only clear violations of the Guam rules of professional conduct, they are classic demonstrations of the tail wagging the dog. In this instance, the port's tail has wagged the agency to the tune of millions of dollars. For the past 7 years, the port has racked up $6 million in legal fees and may be liable for $3.2 million in back wages and fees, all over a $70,000 workers' compensation claim. On top of this, there have been court judgments handed down to include reinstatement of employment rights, repayment of back wages and benefits, and payment of attorney's fees. Based on testimony provided to the legislature by port board members, there has been no evaluation of the cost-benefit associated with fighting these cases, nor any risk assessment, litigation management, or management assessment. This complete disregard for common business practice, or just plain common sense, begs the question, is it Mike Phillips' interests or the port's interests that are paramount when his firm engages in such legal tactics? An initial litigation risk assessment, if done properly, becomes the business plan for the litigation and is reviewed and revised as more facts become available. It provides a metric against which settlement opportunities and the cost of further litigation can be evaluated. The value of this process is to implement disciplined case management and rigorous case evaluation. Such a process results in significant reductions in the overall cost of litigation, including payouts and attorney fees and expenses, improved ability to evaluate the performance of counsel, improved ability to settle disputes creatively, and improved ability to make informed, settle, or litigate decisions. Unfortunately, the port did none of this, and I'm glad you are undertaking this review and evaluation, Ms. Torres says to Ms. Shinohara. I asked the above question myself on several occasions during my short term at the port, specifically when it came to the approval of billing invoices. While I approved only a few billing invoices, most of which were for matters performed before I assumed employment, my initial scrutiny toward the documents legal counsel submitted resulted in their failure to provide any additional billings for the remainder of my term. A later examination of the invoices submitted by the law office of Phillips and Bordallo revealed a number of obvious problems that you should be aware of, as they did not appear to fairly reflect the basis on which the attorney's charges had been determined. At worst, the charges indicate that the Phillips firm was and may still be padding their invoices. That's super illegal. At best, they demonstrate an inefficient expenditure of public funds. And we want this guy to be the legal counsel for the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. The first set of questionable practices involved the use of block billing and vague or insufficient descriptions, raising suspicions about whether all the work claimed was actually accomplished or whether it was necessary and cost efficient. This is important because when public funds are being expended, attorney bills must be carefully scrutinized. Courts have frowned upon and disallowed attorneys from engaging such practices. Such practices also raise more important underlying ethical issues. Quoting from, I believe this is the American Bar Association's formal opinion on double billing. These ethical questions, including attorney deception, the conflict between the client's needs and the attorney's economic interests, hindrances to expediting litigation, and efficiency and risks of an attorney abusing his discretion, therefore, should be carefully examined. Unquote. The second concern regarding these invoices were the exorbitant number of very long days. While there were numerous days where the billable hours for multiple lawyers exceeded 10 hours in a day, even though no trial days were involved, amazingly and contrary to the laws of time and space, one Phillips bill included billing by a single attorney of more than 24 hours in a day. You mention this all the time. Mm-hmm. For example, on November 27, 2012, Attorney John Bell individually billed more than 24 hours for that day. By the time I exposed it, forcing Phillips to correct the invoice, the bill was already certified and paid by the port. Moreover, in the months of, let me just stop right there. This is an important point. That bill of over 24 hours in a single day was already certified and paid by the port. Yet nothing happened. There, no prosecution, no adverse action, no penalty, no reprimand, nothing was made against the port's legal counsel, Mike Phillips. Yet, in the case against Bernadette Meno, there was a form applying for $70,000 in workers' compensation, making a claim, which was a legal claim because of a legitimate back injury. She was never paid that $70,000.
Up to this day.
Never. She had to pay for her own whatever on her own dime. She didn't take any money. And yet they were fired. And now and
Mike
this
Phillips took
very
money.
clearly took the money.
Yeah.
illegally. There is not such a thing as more than, there cannot even be 1 second over 24 hours. It's impossible because, as the senator says, the laws of time. Anyway, where was I? Moreover, in the months of September and October 2012 alone, there were 35 instances where the billable hours for a single attorney were 10 or more hours, and 17 more instances where the billable hours for a single attorney were 9 or more hours. This should serve as a strong indication that Phillips was likely padding the billing invoices. Unfortunately, these bills were not submitted on a timely basis, as Phillips submits invoices sometimes more than 10 months after the services were first rendered. Needless to say, this delay in submitting invoices complicates and makes more difficult the determination of whether the expenditure of public funds on Phillips is cost-efficient, necessary, reasonable, or compensable. Finally, paragraph 3.1b of the agreement between Phillips and the port specifically requires that Phillips shall bill in time increments of 6 months or 1/10 of
6 minutes.
6 minutes or 1/10 of an hour. Phillips instead consistently billed in quarter-hour increments, which was expressly contrary to his agreement. Such conduct is disfavored because there is a greater likelihood overbilling will result. In conclusion, it has been said that the unvarnished truth is more valuable than the political convenience of a polite lie. 7 years ago, I did the politically inconvenient because I believed it was necessary to expose the truth and make all facts known regarding the handling of my termination and the continued disposition of the Port 7. While this political vendetta gone awry must end, the greater injustice to the people of Guam is the continued pilferage of the port's coffers by your legal counsel, Mike Phillips. In addition to the questionable practices I have laid out here, I have attached listing, together with court judgments and rulings of the Civil Service Commission in the matters of employees Jose B. Guevara III, Francine Rocio, Josette Havalosa, Francis Ariola Cepeda, Leonora Leon Guerrero, Bernadette Meno, and Vivian Leon. Had the Port's board considered a proper and necessary risk assessment of the various cases involving the Port 7, had they not turned a blind eye to the ill-gotten exorbitant billing practices of their legal counsel, or had they simply been smarter than their tail, perhaps we would not have reached this point where new management finds it necessary to review the legitimacy of these cases. Congratulations again on your new position at the port. Short-lived, as it should be. Thanks sincerely, Mary C. Torres. That's Mary Torres' letter to Connie Joshinihara on February...
When she was appointed to look into these...
to lead a task force to look into it, right? February 6, 2019, because Roy Respicio conflicted himself out. He recused himself from looking at it. So Connie Joshinihara was the deputy manager of the port, was the person who took it upon herself or whatever. She was appointed to head this task force. And so Mary Torres sent her a letter saying, hey, chick, you need to look into all this stuff because this is how bad this guy is.
Yeah. Well, she fell.
That's right. And that's in our next story.
She fell hard.
But this is the guy who we've just learned is the attorney now for the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. Under whose those assets far outnumber the seaport's assets. We took him from one place in the government where he screwed it up and violated people's legal and civil rights, which the taxpayers and the ratepayers are going to have to pay for when
they all get their jobs back and get their money. They have to be paid for all these years that they weren't there. Look at Jojo Guevara.
Yeah, and no one is talking about the possibility of punitive damages. Or what do they call those damages? I can't remember.
But that's slander.
Libel.
Yeah, all of that.
They definitely were defamed to the point, or to the point that Joanne Brown and Mike Phillips were making for 7 years. And Joanne was just she swam over to Sorensen Media to host a show over there.
But she's also swimming. She swam over to she gave herself raises. That is very illegal.
But I think the public auditor is going to expose that soon.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, which is good job, BJ. Good job. But she was just recently talking about this case, and she was getting all hot and bothered. Like,
of course she's going to be hot and bothered when you're like that. Even if the aircon's on full blast, you're still hot and bothered.
Like, you need to be careful, woman, because boob sweat is not pretty on an ox like you, okay? Like, it's not... It ain't Tillicum.
Well, the ball is rolling on. The ball has started rolling, and it's gonna roll. You know.
Yeah.
Let's just hope that whoever's hands are in it, that are trying to help them finish this fake thing. Whatever. Let's just hope that we can expose it and let them know we know what they're doing.
Every step of the way.
Yeah.
Now, Guam, are you ready? Are you set? Place your bets. Place your bets. All bets down. All bets down. Hands off the counter, please. No more betting. No more betting. And I can't remember. I don't know the rest of
And
it.
the ball is rolling and strolling to the
Lucky color of Shelton. Pay Shelton. Pay Shelton. Pay Shelton. And Shinihara and Taurus. But Johnny Cool Taurus is actually not the focus of our next story because he gets his own expose. But for more on tonight's top story, we turn it to Johnny Rosario.
Blood Money, the criminal histories of Guam's mafia, and the reason we call this series Blood Money. The people who profit from family-destroying liberty gambling machines are possessed with a public persona that preaches Christian and family values, moral supremacy, and an elite, untouchable status that places them above reproach. They look down on families their business destroys and use a fraction of the proceeds of their ill-gotten wealth buying off politicians who allow their company to continue operating. They already have bought off the Catholic Church's silence. That's because they are a mafia. And despite their patrimony to the church and to the elite who look down on drug users and who fund their riches, this mafia family has a criminal history of its own. The name Amanda Shelton may be familiar to the generation paying attention to the news in the 1970s. It is synonymous with illegal gambling on Guam. Oh, but Senator Amanda Shelton wasn't born until the 1990s. Not that Amanda Shelton, her grandmother, Amanda Guzman Shelton. The reason her name is familiar is because of a federal case called United States of America versus various slot machines on Guam and Amanda Guzman Shelton. Gambling and criminal activity are now 3 generations deep in the Shelton family. From December 17, 1962 on, the elder Shelton and her son, the late Senator Austin Sonny Shelton, imported slot machines of identical concept to today's Liberty machines through the seaport in violation of the interstate and foreign commerce laws of the United States. This is the same argument Senator Amanda Shelton's family and associates are using today to validate the operation of the Liberty slot machines today in local court. The difference is that Guam legislature had, until 2013, closed the loopholes on slot machines and declared them illegal. So did the voters of Guam, who overwhelmingly elected in 3 referenda to prohibit gambling. Yet former Senator Chris Duenas and every single one of his colleagues in the 32nd Guam legislature voted to legalize the Liberty machines. The generational crime within the Shelton family extends beyond gambling and to their in-laws. The late Mr. Shelton married Garciela Shinihara, Gil Shinihara's sister and Senator Amanda Shelton's mother. Mr. Shinihara married the former Connie Jo Brennan, now deputy manager of the island seaport, where illegal replacement machines have allegedly been imported for Guam Music, Inc. All of them have been the subject of criminal investigation, and 2 of them were prosecuted and convicted of federal crimes. Mr. Shelton was the first of several connected to the administration of former Governor Carl Gutierrez to be convicted of corruption charges. In January 2002, he was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for bid rigging, wire fraud, and money laundering in connection with federal funds tied to the post-Super Typhoon Paka recovery effort. His crimes and those of others jeopardized future typhoon recovery assistance from the federal government, which withheld funding for several typhoons following 1997. These sanctions had a crippling effect on Guam's economy, suffering the poorest in our community to months of waiting for relief in post-Chataan and Pangsangwa relief efforts in 2002 and into 2003. Mrs. Shinohara played a direct role in Mr. Shelton's federal conviction. She testified against him in order to receive immunity for her own crimes during the Gutierrez administration. Connie Jo Shinohara was a secretary to Mr. Gutierrez and was implicated in federal crimes for which she was under investigation. She also was in charge of the local recovery coordination office, the agency through which federal funds for PACA recovery flowed. In United States of America versus Austin J. Sonny Shelton, Mr. Shelton's future sister-in-law testified against him to save her ass, claiming that Mr. Shelton never provided the required documentation to account for funds to her. Mr. Shelton died under federal custody. Despite such an awful betrayal, the Shinoharas and the Sheltons continued their lust for gambling profits. This is why we call this series Blood Money. Connie Jo Shinohara's husband was a subject of several corruption investigations by the FBI during and following his role as chief of staff to Mr. Gutierrez. In 2005, he was finally convicted in district court of conspiracy to commit money laundering and bank fraud and sentenced to 2 years and 8 months in the federal penitentiary. These crimes against the people of Guam, our laws, and the laws of the United States have gone rewarded by a system of political patronage that has enriched them and placed their cronies in positions of significant power. Ironically, Mr. Shinohara's crimes were committed against the Bank of Guam, Governor Luliang Guerrero's family's bank. She placed his wife in charge of her campaign and the seaport, metaphorically placing the fox in the proverbial henhouse. These are the people who look down upon and ignore the plight of the poor, addicts, and working families. In the most twisted of ways, they made their riches illegally off those they've been allowed to climb over for all these years. That's the end of the story. I want to say these people also go to church every Sunday. These people talk about God all the time.
I as a Christian.
Yes. These people, no, I don't want it. It tastes like beer. Ooh. That's why I don't like it. But I just want to say these are the people that go to church every Sunday. And that's what bothers me.
No, they're big contributors to the Catholic Church. This is probably why since 2013 we haven't heard much from the church about these liberty machines.
Yeah.
You know? I'm so sick. So twisted.
You can find that article in on www.kanditnewsgroup or kanditnews.com.
She testified against her future brother-in-law who ended up dying
in jail.
In jail.
Yeah.
And so, like, even despite the fact that she's making a lot of money off of these liberty machines, is the reason that she's going along with all of this because she's atoning for her sins. And this is why we call it blood money. Because the money that's being made, I mean, you know, defuntu Sonny Shelton, he died in jail. Mm-hmm. Well, but it's you know, it's a good point that you and Jacob Nakamura make. 3 generations of Sheltons are involved in this business. And Amanda Shelton, who during the debate about carnival casino gaming was like, oh, we need to make sure that it's family friendly. And bitch, what about those liberty machines? They're at King's.
And I also wanted to state that anybody helping these people skip out on their taxes needs to stop now. Anybody. Because the numbers don't add up.
Oh, yeah.
So somebody's helping these people figure out what they should report and what they need to report and what they don't have to report. And this is all going to come to its head.
We're going to make it come to its head. I'm proud to do that for the greater glory and honor of Guam. Now,
and
if you
is
want
that
to
a
know,
federal crime when they help when they don't?
report their taxes the right way? I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not sure. I know our tax system is based on the federal tax system, but I don't know like criminally where it goes. If you want to read more about this investigative series called Blood Money, just go to www.kanditnews.com, and you'll see the stories there in the rows of stories that we have there, or just Google Blood Money plus Kandit, and it'll come up. Now, before we go, and before we get to the comments, I wanted to just check Joint Typhoon Warning Center one more time to see if there's anything new. I don't think there is.
Don't forget, car wash tomorrow, 76 Sinahanya. Please, everybody, come out and
Support the George
GW.
Washington girls volleyball team.
Yes.
Thank you. There it is.
Their car wash Sunday, October 20, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., 76 gas station, Sinahanya. And these are the girls, the volleyball team.
They're going to Manila, right? Oh, Alabang, Philippines.
Yes.
Alabang, Philippines.
Yes. Come out, get your car washed, come and donate. You don't have to donate just $5. You can donate as much as you want.
Yeah. If I'm not doing family things tomorrow, I'll stop by and I'll help to wash cars.
So anybody want to watch Troy video Troy washing your car, you're free to do so.
Please get my good side.
But it is going to cost you.
Please get my good side, like, because there's a fat side, and then there's a fake skinny side.
But Prim, go back to go to our faces. But I'm so glad Troy doesn't have selfies where you go like,
Those
when you do that.
So dumb. Those are so dumb. Let's get to the comments.
No filters, guys.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Lynn Tidinko says, "Earthquake, what the hee-haw?" Claire says, "I want to hear the news. Eyes are closing." Irene Alcantara didn't feel it in Deredo. I didn't feel it in Tuman either. But everyone else here felt it. The real Joe Cruz says, "Brown fell down and shook the world." How much per plate? Well, unfortunately, hers is not at the discounted price that plates are going for these days. Good evening, Charlene Odelia Perez Fong. Thank you very much. Buenas, Melvin Santos. Good morning, Julita Marie. Melvin Santos says, "Leche Sasigil, high rolling crooks." Joshua Tysono says, "Sup, Andre." Oh, hey, Andre. Andre Caligay's watching. Mm-hmm. What's up, Chelu? Andre says, "Sup, Josh. You ain't down to play tonight." I'm not even going to comment on that, Andre, but if you know what's good for you, there's... And I'm not going to read what Josh responded. John Duane says, "Check how Joyce Nicholas fixes his position at the fire department," and also Charles Steves. John Duane says, oh, that's the same thing. Anthony from Another Pansy. I really hope that you're doing well, Rosalind Cruz. She had pneumonia. Mm-hmm. And
She's doing better. Hopefully
is?
her breathing stabilizes and then she gets released.
Okay.
Yeah.
Troy, she says, "Troy, you're so Esau regarding sweaty boobs, LOL, because I'm the president of that committee."
Dar Moses says, "Love you guys. Keep up the good work."
Thank you, Dar. Nicole Castro says, "Love you guys." We love you too, Nicole. Hi, Fran. Buenas. Oh, happy birthday, Nicole.
Happy birthday, Nicole.
Hi, Anna Scamboluri. Yes, we miss you too, Nicole. Thank you very much for joining us for this Saturday edition of Kandit News. We brought you.
I just want to say, since we started this series on the blood money, we have been receiving a lot of support as well as information that and these are people who have gathered their own information to provide it to us.
Yeah, because these rich people have been stepping on a lot of people all of these years. And what did you guys think? They weren't
former employees. They were
gonna keep quiet their whole lives. What were you guys thinking? Idiots. Hey, if you're upset that all this information is coming out,
And there's no one paying us to get this done, because that was a big question towards Kandit. Who hired Kandit to get this done, right?
yeah, yep. And this
Who's
is
behind this?
this is from our love, sincerely our love of Guam, first
Yes.
of all, but our love of all things good, where things like justice need to happen because of how these people have treated many people.
Right.
But most of all, because they've had such a profound negative impact on the lives of thousands of people, and they with impunity
And you
they
will,
continue.
if they think that it doesn't affect people, that they're just making money off the people that, and yes, there's people saying, oh, it's a choice to go into that game room or not. It's not a choice when you're addicted to meth or anything else. It's not a choice.
It's a compulsion.
Yes.
Right.
So, and the compulsion is worse than wanting to get high.
That's
So
what I keep hearing.
and this is where this thing, the blood money issue, or this thing we're doing, is also going to lead into Guam and addiction, and how there's no money being pumped into recovery.
or gambling addiction.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, into recovery.
Not even in the private sector you found out,
Nothing.
right?
Nothing.
So when we first reported it, it was that, well, we knew that there was no government funded program.
Right.
But you found out that there's also no private
Right.
and no, currently no therapists on island who specialize in it.
Right.
But hopefully there will be one
soon.
soon.
There will be soon.
And the sooner the better. The sooner that the legislature can get rid of this loophole, which I believe it was the 18th Guam legislature that saw fit to get rid of the slot machines.
I think they need to look at, what happened with Take Care, how they're stopping Take Care, the monopoly that's being created. I think they need to look in. That's a law. That's a federal law.
The antitrust law.
The antitrust law, allowing only
Very
one
good
company
point. Very good point.
to succeed in this lucrative business.
Chris Duenas.
So
That's Chris Duenas' law. That motherfucker should be in trouble too. Anywho,
Dwayne Guerrero, we honestly don't know, because Customs is saying they're not aware, right?
so my brother told me, when I told my brother tonight, he was like, they wear the gray shirts when they're doing training, and I was like, why in the world would they do training in the middle of a Friday afternoon?
But why
along
why
Route
wouldn't
1?
Customs just tell us it was training? If it was a training,
I don't know.
why would they say
But
they don't know?
they're not all up there when it comes to transparency in this administration. So it continues to baffle me how they can get themselves out of these very simple situations, these misunderstandings, and they never. It's like, what? Why are you guys hiding such a stupid thing?
Come say goodnight, Guam, because you're gonna piss me off. Don't go there.
She's a sweetheart.
She's the winner, chicken dinner.
Say it, baby.
Tell them. Say goodnight, Guam.
Good night, Guam.
Say we love you.
We love you.